Good to go there.
Thank you very much. First of all, welcome and namaste to Jana ma'am. It's always been a dream to be able to interview you and to be able to talk to you. So let me start by asking, how is your health?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Actually, I just, I put on a lot of weight, which I just can't seem to get rid of. That's my biggest problem. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised. Just recently, I was applying for the Schengen visa. So I had to have all kinds of tests done, and I was really worried, because my weight just didn't go down. And then I just, sort of thought, oh my God, I've probably got diabetes, I've probably got health, heart problems. They keep on range again. So I was so pleasantly surprised. The only thing I do is I walk. And of course, I don't eat just anything. I eat small portions, but I think for my age, I'm fine so far, touch wood.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's always good to see, because for us, you guys never age. I mean, ever since the day we saw you, it's just been the same Jana Thapa man.
Actually not, actually not, because I mean, there's certain things, which I've decided I'm not even going to attempt anymore. But otherwise, I enjoy my work. I enjoy working with young people. So I think that's what's keeping me good.
Yeah. So in this call, we have your ex-students. We have Kamal Ranavat, if you remember.
Yeah,
so Kamal
I
is on the
remember.
call. Yeah. If you remember Bharat Kandel, he was 800.
I mean, the thing is,
hello, ma'am. Namaste.
I cannot see your photo.
That's Kamal.
I'm मेरो video छैन आज ma'am.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
And then I remember you. You were tall.
Right. Yeah, and then also we have students from different batches that came a lot later on after you left the school. We have Babita Baini, she is here in Georgia. We have Kaushal Bhai. I don't know Kaushal Bhai, you probably were not there. He's in Oregon right now. He's helping us out with as a host and recording sessions. So you have a bunch of people. What we wanted to do was we just wanted to make sure that we have some kind of a documented conversation with you, because we realized the generations that came in the 80s, I would probably say that even that probably was a golden era for BNKS, because at that time we had the British teachers, and then we also had teachers from the Darjeeling and Indian crowd during that time. Also Robert Wilson, Mokhtar sir, a lot of other Dr. Khan team joined us also at that time. And at the same time, we had an awesome Nepali crowd of teachers, and you also came along. I believe at the same time in 1983. We started our journey, at least the 11th batch started our journey in 1983. So I wanted to ask you, what was Nepal like back then in 1983 when you entered BNKS?
It was slightly different for me, because I had spent more than 10 years abroad. And I came back in 81, and, I taught for a year at St. Mary's. And then, I applied for Budhanilkantha when they were actually looking for people like me, in the sense that they wanted, people who could speak English properly. And they wanted people who had boarding school experience, which I had. And so we were, actually very, very inexperienced. I was very inexperienced because I had only done 1 year of teaching. But because I had lived abroad and, I was taken in as, actually, I wasn't taken in as an English teacher. It was quite funny, if I can sort of talk about how I got into Budhanilkantha.
Yeah.
I got into Budhanilkantha. There were 3 of us, late Vijay Rana ma'am, Hira ma'am, and myself, okay? And Vijay Rana had a little bit of experience, but not, Hira and I didn't have any experience at all. And then they realized that they did not need 3 English teachers. And they didn't know what to do with us. Then I was told that I would have to teach Panchayat in Nepali, and I would have to teach social studies. And my Nepali was really, really bad, because I had lived abroad for such a long time. And I said, that I cannot do. I said, and they said, you have to teach social studies. And I don't know whether you were in my class, Kiran, but the guys, the little boys used to laugh at my pronunciation because I had left at a time when there were no sort of, this 14 Jilla and 75 Jilla and 14 Anchal and all that. None of this. So the names were all, I pronounced them all funnily. And I was also asked to teach history, and I would go home with lots of books. And, it was really difficult for me. And then suddenly, one of the teachers who was teaching English decided that she wanted to switch over to social studies. So I was asked whether I wanted to take English, and I said, yes, please, yes, please. And then I went into the English department. So for 3-4 months, I really struggled because, I just didn't know how to pronounce the names, and the boys would just start laughing every time I said something. And I had to study, before I taught. And I was very, very inexperienced. But one thing about Budhanilkantha is that I just learned a lot. I mean, I learned, from the students. I learned from the teachers. As you said, there were British teachers there. There were, we had a lot of Anglo-Indian teachers like Robert Wilson and all. And, for someone who had just done 1 year of teaching, it was an amazing place to be in. But then I had to learn a lot, and which I was quite happy to do. So that's how I came into the English department.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to your life before BNKS, before even coming to Budhanilkantha School. Like, if you could let us into your world as you were growing up in Nepal, born to your family, that you had an opportunity to go to, even as a female back then, as a girl child, to be able to educate it in St. Mary's and then have an opportunity to travel abroad. I believe that was with your husband at that time. If you can let us into how it was, what was growing up like back then?
Well,
what were your challenges?
I was very fortunate because, I was born into a family of 11 children. And my father was amazing because he sort of felt that, girls should also be given the same opportunities as boys. And a lot of my relatives, they were not very happy with my father when he put me into St. Mary's. They said, why are you wasting so much money on a girl? She's going to get married and go off. But my dad he just said, as long as she continues, she wants to study, I'm going to educate her. And this was fine. I was at St. Mary's. I enjoyed every bit of it. At that time, I thought I did not, but now looking back, I do, I did enjoy a lot of things there, and there was a lot of discipline, and it was a very different world. This was in a late 1950s and early 1960s. So for girls to be educated, that was something. And there were very few of us, but I got a very, very good education. And then I came out from St. Mary's, and then, in Nepal, how it is, like you if you immediately you a little bit good in your studies, they say, you have to be a doctor or engineer, okay?
Right.
And so I started studying science. I realized, I didn't like it at all, And then I switched over to, to arts, and I loved it there, and I did very well. But in the meantime, for girls in Nepal, you got married very early. So I was about 18, and there was this doctor who had, who was supposed to be very bright and, had a great future. So it was, my mother was persuaded. My father was not there. My mother was persuaded that I should get married. This came from a very good family, everything. And there were a lot of her nieces and all who had not got married. I mean, I was, at 18, nowadays I feel that girls at 18 were much more mature than I was at that age, And I was asked, and I was also slightly blackmailed, saying, you have younger sisters, you have to think of that. And I just thought, might be fun, honestly, I just thought, might be a good experience. So I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. In those days, you didn't say yes or you didn't say no, And so not saying anything was taken as saying yes. And then my father who had gone out, he came back and he realized that my mother had already, arranged this, and he was not very happy at all. And he said, but she wants to study. She needs to study. Why are you doing this? And my mother said, I've already given my word. So then my dad did something which was unimaginable. He said, I want to go and see the boy. And everyone was horrified because in those days you did not see the boy, you only saw the girl. Okay. So that is quite an amazing thing. And he went and met my husband, future husband, and he sort of said, okay, he talked to him and he thought, okay, it's not a bad match, but he said, he made my husband promise that I would continue with my education. He just said, I know she wants to study, she needs to study, she's bright, and you have to promise me this, at least bachelor's she has to go through. So my husband, he had seen me. I had hardly seen him, and I didn't even know it was him. In those days, that's how it happened. And he said, yeah, fine, so we got married, and it was my husband then pushing me. I mean, you got married, you have parties and you didn't want to go to college, but then my husband would say, I promised your father, you better get up and go to college, okay?
Right.
So it was that kind of thing. And then very soon after, we left for abroad, and I was a housewife. But what I did was I used to read a lot. That's what I did. And I enjoyed looking after the children. I mean, we have 4. And it was sort of like, it was always sort of, my husband always wanted to come back. He never wanted to stay there. We could have stayed in the UK very easily, very, very easily, because we had already got PR, but he always said he wanted to come back and, do something here. So we came back after about 10, 11 years. And it was quite difficult because it wasn't like here, like you couldn't even get chocolates for the children. You couldn't get anything. And also we didn't have much money. We had, what we had saved, we were spending it here. And then, my husband was a very determined man and he wanted to set up this pediatric surgery. And in the meantime, I just met Vijay Rana. You remember Vijay Rana?
Yeah.
And she was my best friend at school. And in those days, you didn't have emails or things like that to keep up. But when we met again, I mean, we were again best friends. That's how it is with good friends. You may not see them for a long, long time, but when you meet them again, you're very good friends. And she was teaching at St. Mary's. So she said, why don't you come? They need a teacher here. And I was not very sure. I said, but I don't know anything about teaching. And she said, come on, it'll be easy, She said, English is good, it'll be easy. So I just mentioned to the nuns there, I said, do you need an English teacher? I might be interested, because what I found coming back was that you could get help. So I wasn't very busy at home, like I was in the UK.
Right.
And immediately, after a couple of days, the nuns rang me up and said, yes, we need an English teacher for class 7 and class 8. So I had no clue about teaching, okay? When I was young, like most of you, I would say, hey, who wants to be a teacher? I don't want to be a teacher, That was the kind of reaction that most students have. But then, when I started teaching, I just enjoyed myself so much. And then I was there for about a year. And then again, it was Vijay Rana. She said, there's this advertisement come out for BNKS teachers, and I think we should apply. And I said, I've only got one year experience of teaching. I've only got a bachelor's. I haven't got anything else. You've been teaching for a long time. You'll get it. I want. She said, hey, let's try. Come on, let's try it together. So we tried, and strangely enough, we were invited to this board, to the interview board, which was comprised of all, secretaries of education and all these vice chancellors and all these high people. And we realized that they wanted people, young people like us. I was young then, okay?
Right.
Young people like us with boarding school experience. So we got in. And then we found, it is so different from St. Mary's. You won't believe it. We found these boys, big boys, okay? And they were sort of not exactly dressed properly. In those days,
Right.
would be boys wandering around with torn clothes. We went into the kitchen, and they had all this. They had terrible, sort of jugs and all, from which they poured water. Aluminum jugs which were all out of shape. I mean, BNKS was not what we expected. And then we were, told to teach. As I said, I was teaching social studies right at the beginning, and but then, I loved the boys. That was the thing, especially when I started teaching English. What happened was that I could see, I was teaching 4D, okay? And I was teaching 8A. So the difference.
Yep.
And with 4D, what I found was that the students would come in, and in those days, because we had no cable TV or anything like that, it was sort of like, you had to nod your head and say, yes, no. And then, there's a famous thing of, you'd point at furniture and you sort of say window. And then, I won't say the name, but somebody would say, Kubindo, it was that kind of a experience.
I know who said Kubindo.
Let's not mention names. Okay?
I know. Right.
And it used to be so hilarious because you'd say, come here, and then, come here, and then, somebody would come under the table and come up to you, I said, no, you can walk up to me, And then, I was also teaching 10D, and these were these huge guys, and they really tested me, they could see I was absolutely green, that, I had not had any experience. So, I won't mention what exactly they did to me, but I was literally shaking inside. But then I sort of stood my ground, and I made that person, who had been goaded by the other students to say the words that he said. And I said, what do you mean by that? And at that time I had a really British accent. So I said, what do you mean by that? Come on, tell me. If you can write that, you can tell me what that is. And he didn't want to get up. And the others were sort of saying, hey, ban, and that kind of thing, the Buranganta spirit.
Right.
And so he just he came up to me and he just scratched what he had written, scratched it out. And he just said, sorry. And he went and sat down. Then I breathed a sigh of relief. I was literally shaking. I was just sort of thinking, what if he explains in English, what was it that he had written in Nepali, Right. And then I think they did respect me. And the other thing, of course, my English helped, because sometimes when, especially with the 10D students, when they wanted to say something, I would answer in English, and there was no way they would be able to answer me back in English. So I'm not trying to boast or anything like that, but it was the lack of English that helped me get through the 10D class. But then, but I liked the students, and I think that's always a big plus point, whatever they were. And I've always liked students, and I always try to find good in them. And the other thing was I think I was always very fair. I never had favorites. Even now, I don't have favorites. Of course, some students, they become your favorites in a way, like you, Kiran, you keep sort of ringing up teachers and talking to them. So that way you're closer. But I always tell other teachers, when they're worried, I just said, you just have to be very fair. They have to see that you're a fair person, and, that helps. So that was my introduction to Budhanilkantha.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that part. I was not aware about your closeness with Vijay Rana ma'am. I knew you guys were best friends because you guys were always together, especially during the lunch hours, things like that, when you guys were hanging out in the sun together. We saw that, and what a lovely lady she was. She has been sorely missed. I know I had an opportunity to meet her son in Minnesota many years back because he was there. Now, coming back to your time in BNKS, I know one of the highlights of your career definitely was leading the first batch of girls in BNKS. How did that go? How did that come about from your perspective? And then what were the challenges that you had to encounter? You endured, all of you together. I mean, I salute all the first batch girls, because in the crowd of the hundreds of boys, that they stood their ground. Not only they stood their ground, they persevered, and they're very successful in their in their life. I just wanted to hear from you how proud you are. What were the challenges? Are you still in touch with them? And we have we have Babita. I think we also have the first female president here. I think I saw her here, and Snida Mainali, and they might have some questions for you. So I leave that floor open to you, ma'am. Just go ahead.
Well, getting the girls in was quite difficult. I mean, after a while, after I sort of matured as a teacher, I kept thinking, like this is the best school for boys. It's got all these facilities and, all these amazing teachers. It's not fair. What about girls? Because I have 3 daughters myself.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is so unfair, and that sort of ate at me quite a bit. And we would talk about it. And actually, afterwards, Mrs. Tyson told me that, she sort of said, the reason why we didn't push the girls in was because we wanted to do a different school for girls, just like Budhanilkantha, but I didn't know about. That's what she actually told me once, when I met her afterwards, and I said, how come, you all didn't push girls in at all, the fact, and everyone was against it, the palace was against it, the ministry was against it, and the parents were against it because they felt that the girls would take away seats that were being reserved for the boys. Okay, so it was that kind of situation. But then I think questions were raised. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think questions were raised in Britain about the fact that this was a school, so much of taxpayers' money going in, and it was exclusively for boys. So they had to bring the girls in. And there's no way they could justify further expenditure without getting. So it was actually the British government that insisted on having the girls in. And then the ambassador was, the ambassador does whatever the government tells him to do. So they started talking about getting the girls in. And they were, I was not privy to any of those conversations. I was just, what was I then? I think I was, it started when I was HOD, head of department, but then slowly, as I became vice principal, then, they were definitely coming in, but they were going to be put in very, very gently so that, people would not complain. So it would just be the O-level girls, and very few of them. So nobody was taking seats away from the boys. That was very important, especially for the parents of the boys. So they came in, and it was, it was like a circus because everyone would look at them. And there were some students and teachers who were very hostile, very, very hostile to the idea of the girls coming in. So you're right, these girls were amazing. The fact that they stood tall in spite of everything. And, but then again, there were some students who were very helpful. So it wasn't, it wasn't all boys being sort of boys, it was also boys trying to help the girls. And I was put in charge of the girls, and I had to be quite strict. And I don't think the girls liked me very much. In fact, I do know that at one time they even went to the principal and said, can't she be changed? Can't we have someone else in charge of us? And the principal told me this and laughed about it. And I said, so what did you tell them? And, I felt a little bit hurt at that time, but then I knew why they said that, because I was really, I had to be strict. And he said, no, I just told them, get on with it. We're not going to change her, So the thing was that every little thing the girls did would be reported to me. And I would say to the male teachers, if you think that's wrong, why don't you go and tell the girls themselves that? Why are you telling me? Why should I always be the one to sort of go and say to them, you should not do this, you should not do that? But then those are the things that were not so good, okay? But the good things were that when we had sports day, and the little boys were so funny. I don't know whether you remember, Kiran, but the little boys were so funny because they would sort of go and try to encourage the girls, saying, Didi, jump. And they would do it in such a sly way. They would say, come on, you can jump higher than that. I can jump higher than you. It was that kind of thing. But the girls took it all in very good spirit. And this was, the first sports day where there were girls there. And then, of course, things got better as we got in more girls. And I remember there was one, I think, drama evening or something when the girls were taking part. This was a house drama or something. And, they usually ends the other house. And then the British ambassador turned to me and said, I think, Mrs. Thapa, the girls have taken over, because the girls were doing most of the acts. Even before that, the dramas became so much more interesting when we had girls rather than have boys dress up as girls, okay? And then get teased for the rest of their lives. So
that is absolutely true. Yes.
I mean, it was so much more interesting. And of course, the other thing was that I loved sort of, being part of the drama team, producing, directing. So that was great. I mean, we had all these Shakespearean things with these beautiful girls, real girls, and so that is really, really interesting. The other thing, of course, is that later when we start getting more and more girls, then it was better. The girls, they just stomped around the place, and I would be quite amazed. They were so confident. They were so confident. And I would sort of think, that if I was in that situation, I mean, I would be so scared, there's so many boys and so few girls, but I think they stood their ground, and, whatever challenges they had, they sort of overcame them. And I was so proud of them, and so
Yeah.
that, that's the thing with the girls. And more than that, the other thing that also I was really proud of at Budhanilkantha was, when I was leaving, when I first started there was just a handful of us lady teachers, okay? Very few of us. I mean, there was Mrs. Shah, who actually I'm meeting her on Monday, Mrs. Geeta Shah and Vijay Rana ma'am, myself, and then there were, Shambadan ma'am and a few others. But there were just a handful, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 of us. But when I was leaving and I was sort of, giving my farewell speech, there was a whole line of teachers, lady teachers. And I thought that's an achievement. The fact that, I was able to recruit so many lady teachers, especially, I mean, there were always, women teachers for English, but then we also had a woman teacher for Nepali.
Yeah.
That was amazing, because we only had these gurujis, okay, and they were very good, but no women. And then also for maths and for science, which I thought was amazing, because these were subjects that you don't normally find women teachers for. But by the time I left, there's this whole line of women teachers, and that I thought was amazing. First of all, the fact that the girls got in. Second of all, that there were so many women teachers.
Right. And I think right now in school, I know my daughter said that in P department also they have a female teacher. In chemistry, chemistry was is currently being led by female, and the vice principal ma'am is obviously Timila Didi. Is the vice principal there. So they have made a significant progress, even though it is not a 1-to-1 ratio, which is the ideal that we had strived for. But some of the things that you mentioned, it seems still hasn't changed. I think that the attitude of the teachers towards the girls, in so many ways, you still feel like, at least based on the latest report from my daughter who came last year, saying, hey, there's still that we're not allowed. The segregation kind of sort of still exists, between the boys and the girls, and then every time even they try to get closer, the teachers immediately report this and that. So that thing still unfortunately still exists, but hopefully and down the road it will change for the better. At this time, I would like to give the opportunity to Snida. Hira ma'am is here too, and then I see our own vice president lady here. I think Babita is still there. If you guys have any questions, just feel free. I mean, it is for all of us. So jump right in. Snida, Babita, Hira Gurung ma'am, just go ahead.
Namaste, ma'am. Namaste, Hira, ma'am. Namaste, Dai, Didi, Adu, and everyone present here. Myself, Babita Adhikari, 8126D, and I am the current Vice President of SEBS North America. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining here today. I feel really happy to hear all your memories and how you initiated co-education in BNKS. So म चाहिँ त्यो अलि junior batchमै पढ्छु हैन, so I was not there, but I feel really lucky sitting here and listening to your stories. अनि हजुरले Mrs. Tyson ko kura garnubhayo. I had somebody who told me like who studied in Bhutan, and his principal was Mr. Tyson, and he was like, hey, we have this kind of relationship, like you all had your principal Mr. Tyson back then, and I had principal Mr. Tyson back then. So like it's the kuraharu pani I get from like even out of BNKS people, and I really feel proud about it. And especially मलाई यो co-education and stuff को कुराहरू स्टोरिजहरू कसरी BNKS-मा चाहिँ फिमेल एजुकेसन गर्ल्सको नम्बर इन्क्रिज भयो भनेर सुन्दा चाहिँ एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ लाग्छ, and I like to hear more stories like this. And thank you so much, ma'am, once again. अनि हजुरले भन्नुभएको त्यो अघि भर्खरै भन्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो, मलाई चाहिँ त्यही माथि कनेक्ट गर्न मन लाग्यो क्या, लाइक यु आर सेइङ दिदीहरू त्यो बेलामा, सो दे डिड नट लाइक यु, आई मिन नट दे डिड नट लाइक यु, बट लाइक you seem to be a little strict, or like हुन्छ नि अलिकति केटीहरूलाई चाहिँ अलिकति स्ट्रिक्ट गराएको जस्तो दिदीहरूले रियलाइज गर्नुहुन्थ्यो भन्नुभयो. सो यही कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ I want to add something, because like after so many years हामी स्कुलमा हुँदा पनि we used to feel the same. Like boysहरूलाई चाहिँ किन अलिकति लुज गर्ने and girls as very strict भन्ने क्वेसन आउँथ्यो क्या, and I think it's still there. अनि हजुरहरूको पार्टबाट पनि I'm sure there is genuine reason, of course, for different reason हजुरहरूले त्यस्तो एक्ट गर्न चाहिँ बाध्य हुनुभएको थियो होला. So from this meeting, I am representing all BNKS girl, and I'm asking you this question, I know very humbly and genuinely, like हजुरहरूको साइडबाट हेर्दा चाहिँ किन चाहिँ अलिकति गर्ल्सहरूलाई चाहिँ अलिकति एक्स्ट्रा केयरफुल हुनुपर्छ, अलिकति स्ट्रिक्ट हुनुपर्छ जस्तो लागेको?
No, I think it's not exactly what you're saying. I mean, I'm glad Hira is there. She's probably going to corroborate me on this, because she's one of the first girls only house mistress. It wasn't the fact that we were favoring the boys, not at all. We had to be more protective, especially in those days, because this was kind of like a new experiment. And, we never sort of, well, I never anyway. Hira ma'am thought she was responsible for the girls in her house. So maybe she was strict, which is not something that I would actually, when I think of Hira, I don't think of her as being a very strict person. She's a very, very friendly person. But we had to be very protective, because this was like girls, like especially at the beginning, 15 girls, 90 boys. And it's like in anything could go wrong. Slightest thing goes wrong, then the whole project would be closed. Okay. And so, and it was in those days. I mean, nowadays, I think, there's much more freedom. And you'd see a boy and a girl walking together. And you don't sort of say, don't walk together. I never said that. But there would be male teachers who would come up to me and sort of say, I saw them walking together. I said, I would actually say, and this is 100% the truth, if you felt that was wrong, why didn't you go and tell them that? And I didn't have a heart to sort of say to a boy and girl walking together to say, don't do that. So, I mean, we would sort of have a general talk to girls about, do this, don't do that. I don't think we were sort of harder on the girls than on the boys. Maybe we were more protective. Okay, maybe we were more protective. I would say more protective. I don't think there were that many different rules for boys and girls. So somehow, I mean, as far as academics was concerned, no problem, okay? You got the same treatment. But I suppose the boarding aspect, there were certain things where we had to be more protective. And I don't know, maybe Hira wants to say something here, because you all, the first girls there were an experiment. And if slightest thing went wrong, then the whole project would be shut off. It was as simple as that. Slowly, the girls sort of, started being better in some subjects than boys. They started being more confident. They were always confident. That was the best thing about the girls who came in early. They were so confident, you know, and that was a great joy to see. And I would never, having 3 girls, I would never sort of, you know, be prejudiced or biased against girls anyway. So I don't know, Hira probably had to be a little bit more strict, and the other house mistress also, Binta Karel, Bidya Thapalia, they had to be a bit more strict, I'm sure, because they were looking after you. When anything went wrong, you know, it would go to them. And it was parents also. You have to also realize that this is Nepal, okay? I know you're in the States now, and things are slightly different in Nepal, even now, okay? So I don't know, Hira, do you want to say something?
Hira ma'am, you can go on unmute. She's still on mute if there is anything.
Okay, fine now.
Hi.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste, nice to see you all. I didn't realize this, only I realized at the last minute and I just keep running. Anyway, yeah, I agree completely with Mrs. Thapa that we had to be really protective. I mean, they were like our daughters. That's how we felt. And as Jana ma'am has said, we didn't really like, you know, have different rules or, you know, favor the boys more or more relax on the boys. I don't think we had that mindset. So in my house, I was the first girl's head of house in Himchidi house. And in my house, I think I had a very good understanding with my students, especially the first batch of students who came in. Samjhanaka, Rina was my head of house captain, and they were really amazing, and they were very confident, very smart. Even in the assembly, I remember one of the Monday morning assemblies, they had a skit, you know, and that was targeting at the boys who teased them, right? So they had that kind of confidence, and, you know, so we were very proud of them, and we encouraged them all the way, and we had a very good relationship. There was no barrier. So I'd walk into their dorm and spend hours with them, talk to them, you know, chat with them, listen to their problems. So much so that I'll forget to have dinner at my house, things like that. So in the beginning, of course, it was really, really difficult because the house itself, you know, the construction was really bad. Jana ma'am, I think you remember, it was, the contractor was a Britisher or something. Yeah. But it was really bad, and, you know, the girls would come running, ma'am, our room is flooded, you know, and this and that, and the toilet flush is not working, and the flush system, when they sort of pulling type, you know, that kind of system,
Yeah.
it fell. And then they'll blame us, say, why dear, why were your boys so girls so rough, you know, why would they pull so hard? I say, no, it's not that, you know, just that stuff that you brought is really cheap quality. And I had a whole list of things, you know, that needed repair, starting from, you know, the shade for the rain and toilet and bedroom, whatever. I had a whole list, and of course, the contractor, he wasn't very happy about it. But those were the initial days, and I think we worked together with the girls with all these, and we had developed a very good understanding. Definitely, we were strict. We were nervous. I remember Mrs. Thapale and me, like, you know, after dinner, when the boys and girls will just go out for a walk, we will be walking, you know, just behind them very quietly, you know. I mean, just to see that things are okay. It's not that we want to, you know, find faults or anything like that. As a ma'am has said, we were being really protective as if they're our own children, our own daughters. And definitely we were not biased, you know, favoring the boys than the girls. We were very protective, okay?
Yeah.
And I had boys coming to complain about our girls. So as ma'am said, as, you know, the years passed by, the girls became more and more confident. So confident that some of the boys were, you know, coming to complain to me and say, oh, this Baini, we're just trying to be nice to her, and, you know, and she answers back. And I still remember the girl, but of course I'm not going to take her name, but she was quite bold. So we had that kind of students as well, right? So yeah, we were strict, definitely, and I think it's all for the good of the girls. And we worked very closely with Jana ma'am, and we had a lot of problems, issues as well, and that needed to be dealt with, and that made us even, you know, more careful how we, you know, took care of our girls.
Yeah. Thank you, Hira ma'am, for sharing that wonderful information from your side. I'd like to get back with Jana ma'am. So Jana ma'am, with your, I mean, you dedicated about 16 years of your life to BNKS, I believe, 16, right? Yeah. 16, and in the 16 years, I mean, do you, because I was hoping that I know you ended up being a vice principal, but I was hoping that you would become a principal at that time. What are some of the bitter moments in Budhanilkantha that you felt?
Well, the thing was that for me, as I told you right at the beginning, I mean, I learned everything I knew about teaching, about people, especially, students from different parts of Nepal, which being from Kathmandu and then living abroad, I really hadn't had a chance to know. So that was a really, really good experience. And then things kept happening to me. And that made me continue to stay in Budhanilkantha because I was made head of department. Okay. And that was because, they were actually, they wanted a man there, but there was no man there. So I was there. And so I became head of department. And then after, I was head of department for a very short time because then, the vice principalship came up and people wanted me to apply. I wasn't sure I was ready, but then I applied. And, I think I started getting a little bit more ambitious after that. I just thought, okay, I can do it. And it was a natural progression, you become vice principal, then you become principal, okay? But there were certain things that one could not fight against, which was the politics of the thing. And I can say that 100%, confidently that it was politics. And I kept getting promised, people kept making promises that, after the next 3 years, you'll be the vice principal, you'll be the principal. Then suddenly I started realizing that it was never going to happen. And I woke up to the fact that there's a lot of bias in Nepali society, and it's not going to go away just like that. And then I was not interested in continuing anymore. And a number of our friends from the English department had left, and they seemed to be, enjoying life more. And I started exploring, and they encouraged me also to explore. And wherever I sort of, went, they were very happy, they wanted me to become the principal. And I was still, I wasn't going to leave things just like that and go. I was not bitter about that at all. I just wanted, in fact, as Hira would say, I wanted people to be teaching A-levels after I left, because at that time, I was teaching A-levels. So I wanted people like Hira to be teaching A-levels. So we were sort of talking about it. And I gave notice, I sort of said, 1 year is all I'm going to give Budhanilkantha. After that, I'm going to leave. So prepare other people. And because, I love Budhanilkantha, I still do. And I didn't want to leave things in a lurch. That was my main thing. And then a friend of mine said, why, at this age, why do you want to work for other people? Because at Budhanilkantha, I was working for other people, for the government, okay? And you should work for yourself. And I thought about it, and, always my husband was there to support me. And so I said, okay, that's what I'll do. And maybe I can do things differently. Then I moved over to Malpi, and then that was a godsend for me, because I could do what I wanted to do, which I couldn't do in Budhanilkantha. And that used to surprise me quite a lot, because I was the executive director and I didn't have to have big meetings to decide anything, I could decide, because my friends who were the other promoters, they said, it's education, you are in charge. And my promoters were all, like doctors, bankers, rich business people. And they said, we don't know about education. You know about education. You do that. You do what you want to do. You don't need to keep asking us. So I really had a free hand with Malpi, and I really enjoyed it. What I found very different, of course, was the students. Okay, these were rich kids I was teaching, whereas at Budhanilkantha it was a mixture. So right. I felt a little bit, worried about that. But then I just thought, well, rich kids also deserve a good education. And this, the whole outlook was so different. But then, I always liked doing different things. So from British education, I went straight to American style education. And the main thing was that I was responsible for everything that happened, and I enjoyed that. And I didn't have to, like if I was a principal of Budhanilkantha, there was only so much I could do. for everything, I would have to, go to the ministry. I would have to sort of, get permission. And you know how it is in Nepal, to get permission to do anything, you have to please them. I didn't have to do any of that because the promoters were all my friends. They still are my friends. And they just encouraged me and they were very happy with what I was doing. So, that's how I changed over.
So transitioning from BNKS to your post BNKS, what are some of the things and the lessons you took away from your time in BNKS into your next phase of life, which was again continuing the education, like you mentioned in Malpi? Because I remember when Mokhtar sir left BNKS, he started his 3D school, and in 3D school, I was I was pleasantly surprised, as a matter of fact, to say the students there had the roll number like 101, 106. Their students also went through the exact same thing, and I was like, and that was very interesting. What were some of the things that you took away from BNKS and you incorporated that into the outside the BNKS into your own academic fields?
Okay. I mean, everything about teaching, I learned from Budhanilkantha. Okay. I even went to Nottingham to do my master's. Then I went to Cambridge to do this assessment courses and all that. So everything about teaching, I learned from Budhanilkantha. And for that, I'm always very grateful. The fact that you could be close to your students, I learned from Budhanilkantha. And that was one thing that I incorporated there. If you're talking about physical things, I decided that all rooms needed to have a name, like we had at Budhanilkantha. So, so we decided that we'd have names of rivers, not mountains, okay, like at Budhanilkantha, but names of rivers. Right. And plus also what the promoters said was, the board of directors. So they said, why don't you have your original home, like, I'm a Raimaji. And we come from Palpa, from a place called Chara. Okay, I've never been there, but one room was named Chara in honor of my ancestors, Right. So those are the kind of things we did. And then the other thing, of course, was encouraging them to have clubs, encouraging the students to have a heart to actually help the underprivileged, okay, the least privileged in their community. So raise money, do this, do that. And I did a lot of social service also, and that I could do once I was out of Budhanilkantha. For example, pestalozzi, I became, eventually when I left, I was chairperson of pestalozzi, which was looking after these young children. Some of them were studying at Budhanilkantha. And it was the Budhanilkantha connection that, the founder of pestalozzi in Nepal, Sir Richard, he approached me because he had met me in Budhanilkantha. And there were other things, that I decided that I would do. For example, St. Mary's had this alumni association called Asman, and I was very much a part of it right from the beginning. So when I became president there, then we started the scholarship program. So that is, again, something that I think I took from Budhanilkantha. And there were these schools where the students were studying, but they didn't have proper clothes, the books the government provided. They didn't have anything, but these were very bright girls. This was a girls' school, okay? There were two of them. And so we came up with this idea when I was president that we would sort of, and at that time it was just 2,500 rupees a year. Now it's about 7,000. So we said, each one teach one. So each of us on the board would teach one student. And then we went around with the slogan to our friends and relatives saying, this year, please don't buy us one sari, buy one sari less. Give us the money. We want to educate girls. So when I left, we were educating 500 students. We started with, there were 11 of us on the board, and we started with 11 students. And in my 3-year term, we ended up with 500 students. Now the whole school in Chamsikhe and Lubu, I don't know how many students there are. I still sponsor a girl every year. And sponsoring just means, giving the money. And, at the beginning, we used to buy the stuff, but then we realized that, buying things in bulk, the nuns can do that. So, and doing things like that. And, there's so many other little organizations that have asked for help and have helped. And I've always felt that was something that I got from Budhanilkantha, the idea that you need to help. And, you need to hand out scholarships, which will help the students. And definitely, some of the students, even from these schools, they're called the Mary Ward schools. They are in different parts of the world. They've got good scholarships and they're in different parts of the world. So I think, achievement is, sort of, what are my achievements? Achievements are people like you doing so well. I'm very happy when some of you come back. I do realize that not all of you can come back because of other commitments, but when some of you come back and do great things here, what is so embarrassing for me now? I go to these, conferences. I try not to go to many of these conferences. And there's always the Budhanilkantha students, and they look at me and say, Jana ma'am, you're still here. You're still teaching. You haven't retired. I said, of course I haven't retired. But they're all heads of institutions, all
Right.
of them are heads of institutions. I think possibly Hira and I are the only ones who have not retired. Everyone seems to have retired, Baidya sir has retired, and every conference I go to, I meet them. Just the other day, I was asked to be keynote speaker at Malpi School in Panoti. And there were these two guys, they came up to me and said, Jana ma'am, you were there when we did our SSC. Now our kids are doing SSC and you're the keynote speaker here. And I said, just keep quiet about it, will you? I said, your hair is white, gray. My hair is still black. So
Right.
just keep quiet about it. But it was great meeting them. And their kids were doing SSC. And I don't remember their roll numbers and all. But these, it was amazing. And anywhere you go, they're there. Doctors.
Yeah.
You're not feeling too well. You go to a hospital, the doctors are there. You're Jana ma'am, aren't you? And you sort of,
Yeah.
I used to have to go to hospitals quite a bit when my husband was ill. And then there were all these doctors who were sort of Budhanilkantha students, and that was quite amazing. So this is something I think that all of us teachers from Budhanilkantha were so proud about. Some of the best doctors.
Yeah.
Some of the best.
The network is so vast and so valuable. I think more than the education, you realize after you leave the school, it is the network that you built during that time that comes in so handy every day kind of situation. So that's amazing. I wanted to ask you about your additional role that you've taken on after your beloved husband passed away regarding children's hospitals. Can you, and the maternity hospital, can you shed some light into that, please?
Well, what happened was that we were building a hospital, children and women's hospital mainly, but it also deals with adult cases. And that hospital was, I think the ground floor had just been, concreted, and then my husband passed away, and it was his dream to build the hospital. And we had quite a big share in the, finances also. But more than the finances, and it was at a time when any work that commemorated my husband, I was ready to take on. So they asked me to be the, to be the chairperson of and this was something completely new. So I was very uncertain about it right at the beginning. Because this was health. I didn't know what was going on there because, my husband, we always shared everything, any problems I had with my colleges, etc. I would talk with my husband. Any problems he had with the hospital, he would talk with me. So although we were quite old, but we were not traditional that we had separate lives. We didn't have separate lives. We had, so anyway, I was asked to take over, and I found it very different. It was very taxing. In a sense, the hospital and the college kept me sane because it meant that I had so much work that the only time I didn't have work was in the evenings. And of course, the evenings were not very good for me. I can't sleep. That's the worst thing. We had been married for 52 years, which is
right.
Amazing. And so even now I have to take something to go to sleep. I just can't sleep. So when I had work, I was busy, and then immediately I finished the work, then I was not busy. And then I was busy in my head, which is not so good. Okay. But it's been like 2.5 years now, and I think things will get better. What have I done there? Now, at the moment, now I'm only on the board. I'm not the chairperson anymore. I still contribute a lot, but it means that I can take things a little bit more easily. I mean, my children have been after me to sort of, not do too much. So that was, again, one of the reasons. The other reason was also that, running a hospital 100% is quite different from running a college, okay? And it's different priorities, different thing. And chairperson in a hospital, not executive chairperson like my husband was, but just being chairperson, you don't really have any power. It's the board that has the power. And certain things you want to do, you can't do if the board doesn't want it. And again, you're dealing with doctors who are actually supposed to be the most difficult people to deal with. And they were very, very supportive. And it was the goodwill that my husband generated. So, because they could have just said, what does this woman know about medicine? Why is she here? But because of the goodwill that my husband generated, they supported me. I don't think the achievement there is the hospital is completed. It's a beautiful hospital. Most probably, I would like to sort of, I mean, we've been sort of offering some, big discounts to school children and all that. So my idea is that possibly we could go to more schools. At the moment, we haven't been able to do that. Just the schools surrounding us. Go to more schools, offer health camps, eye camps. It's again, it's a question of money. There's because we built the hospital. Again, we don't have that much money with us at the moment to do the things that we want to do. But it's a good group. The doctors are really, really excellent. I mean, they're some of the best doctors for their field in the country. And so it's doing good. It's doing good. But that's my achievement. The hospital is there. It's a beautiful, beautiful hospital.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So we're coming towards the tail end of our conversation for sure. Before I open the floor, who do you still keep in touch with from your time in BNKS? I know you earlier mentioned you're going to be visiting Gita Sir, ma'am. So please give us our love and regards. I know I'm planning on sending a video message to her through Baid sir, and then we'll probably also be doing some dosala for her. She's such a lovely lady. Also, so but who are your friends that you keep in touch with?
Well, there's Hira, of course. Hira has started this little group called BNKS Bhetghat group or something like that, and
Nice.
we meet.
Okay.
There's Hira, Indu ma'am, Tapasi ma'am, who also lost her husband recently, and Sushil is also there, Sushil sir.
Okay.
And this, Bidya, when she comes, we meet her. When she comes to
She's
Nepal,
here.
Tapalia ma'am, we meet her. Mega ma'am, sometimes we meet her. And so by this, actually, he was working at Malpi. So I'm in a real close touch with him. There were some teachers who actually came over from Budhanilkantha. They wanted to teach at Malpi, so they taught for some time, and also I was sort of close to them. Some students too. I mean, I still have some students who are teachers at Malpi. There's I don't know the numbers, but there's Kiran, who's a wonderful chemistry teacher. There's Kamal Nepal, who's a biology teacher. So we do have them coming. But as far as friends are concerned, I mean, I think it's Vijay is not there anymore, but there's Hira, there's Indu, there's Tapasi. We're quite close. We
Dolma ma'am, Mira
Chomu ma'am, of course, who's still at Budhanilkantha. And Mira, you remember Mira Shrestha ma'am?
Yep.
So she's, she's another person. She rings, and we meet, and who else, Hira? Anyone else I missed out?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Mega already, and Vidya Thapalia. Yeah, Vinita, we hardly meet her. It's very hard.
Vinita, I've just seen her like a few years ago. So, I mean, if people want to meet, we meet.
Vijay Limbu.
Yeah, Vijay Limbu ma'am also. I mean, the thing is, if two people want to meet, we find time for each other. If they don't want to meet, then that's a different thing.
Right.
But we do meet. I mean, with Hira, quite close touch with Hira and Indu. I think the closest Hira, Indu, and Meera. And we keep, passing messages, etc. But others also, we meet them, and it's always nice to meet Brahmanta teachers.
I'm so glad to hear that, because again, it's the same story for those of us graduating from the school, when especially your batch, either your batchmates or one above or below you. Like tomorrow morning, I'm going to Luke Lakshman Das Pandit, his son's 1 year old, going to
Wow.
his second
my
son.
goodness.
His second son is going to be 1 year old, going to his event, and I just wanted to make sure that I thought. I'm sure that the teachers would be doing the same. So I'm glad you guys are getting together. In parting,
Just a minute, okay? Just a minute, okay? Lakshman, can you please say hi to him? Because Lakshman actually helped me set up the O and A levels at Malpi. He was actually the person, because when I came over to Malpi, people sort of said, why don't you start A levels, O levels here? And then Lakshman was there, and he helped me. He did 90% of the work, and I'm still in touch with him.
And he's amazing, and he has helped everywhere that he's gone. I mean, ever since whenever he was in Nepal, he helped the SEBS in Nepal. When he came to America, he's helping SEBS North America. He's always there for everything that you need. And people, we love him very much. He's one of the dedicated soldiers of the SEBS, and he's a true backbone for the Alumni Association. I will be certain to pass that message on to him, man.
Please.
Yeah. So in parting, what would be your advice and message for the current teachers as well as students of BNK? So when two separate, what are the messages for the teachers that you want to pass it on to the current teachers who are watching or listening or who will be watching this video, and to the current students who are studying there?
Well, all I can say is I think it's actually for both teachers and students, is that Budhanilkantha is an amazing place, full of amazing, and I mean that very, very sincerely, And I'm not even just talking about the environment, which is, great, but it's such an amazing place. And for the teachers also, you are dealing with students from all over Nepal. And all I can say is, just love them, because that's more than what is needed. If you love your students, half the battle is done. If you come with a positive attitude towards the students, then, the students like you. They also have very positive attitude towards you. And as far as the students are concerned, have fun, enjoy yourself, make friends. Of course, studying, I don't have to tell them to study, because that's what they're at Budhanilkantha for. But have the kind of links that you SEBS have, like especially in a boarding school environment. What happens is that if you are a friend, if you make a friend there, you make a friend for life, like Meera Shrestha ma'am. I mean, she was at school with me, and that was how the closeness started with her. The same thing with Vijay Rana ma'am. So, I mean, make good friends, keep up with them. And nowadays it's so easy with, emails and things like that. We didn't have that, but we're still good friends. So it's an amazing place. Make the best of it and enjoy yourself, You need to enjoy life while you can.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's an amazing place to enjoy yourself in.
Yeah. So thank you for your time. I just want to open it up to the public, for I know there are Sushil, Snida, Roshan Bhai, Nivesh, Loknath, Chandra,
wow.
You guys are all here. So again, unmute yourself and just turn on your video and just whatever message that you have, whatever questions you might have, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning. Jana ma'am, so nice to.
Hi, Snida.
I'm Snida, by the way, Snida136C. The thing is, I cannot turn my video on because I'm feeding my child right now. So, thank you, Kiran Dai, for organizing this. धेरै रमाइलो भयो. The thing is, बिहान बच्चालाई feeding गराउँदा गराउँदै I totally forgot about it. कौशलले hands up दियो, नत्र भनेदेखि मैले miss गर्थे, and I didn't want to miss it. I wanted to ask few things, ma'am. First, मैले BNKS my experience गरेको अहिले आएर when I reflect back, there used to be 3 types of students. One, जो चाहिँ एकदमै they used to be so active, outgoing. I want to spread my wings. त्यहीदेखि देखिने type of students are one category हुन्थ्यो भने, second category used to be in their own world. बाहिर अनि उनीहरू पास आउट भएर बाहिर निस्किँदा नि आफ्नै साथीको सर्कलमा मात्रै बस्यो, त्यही जे छ ठिक छ भनेर त्यसैमा रमाएर बस्ने टाइपको स्टुडेन्ट्स देखेँ मैले। थर्ड भनेको चाहिँ who used to be severely bullied, अलिकति लो फिल गरेर बस्ने, साइकोलोजिकल इस्युजहरू देखिन थाल्ने, अनि त्यस्तै त्यस्तै हुँदै गएर पछि पनि लाइफमा प्रोग्रेसिभ हुन सकेन उनीहरू। सो 3 categories of students देख्छु। सेम मैले गर्ल्स को एस्पेक्टबाट हेर्दा मैले 2.5 years स्पेन्ड गरेँ त्यो स्कुलमा। हजुरले स्कुल छोड्दाखेरि हामी ओ लेभल सिध्याउन आँटेको थियौँ म्याम, इट वाज द्याट टाइम। अनि हामीलेसम्म पनि थाहा पाएको थियो कि वाइ जना म्याम इज लिभिङ द स्कुल भन्ने कुरा, द्याट फ्याक्टर केम टुवर्ड्स अस एज वेल, एन्ड इट वाज डिस्करेजिङ टु अस फिमेल्स एट द्याट एज। मैले अहिले फर्केर हेर्दा चाहिँ के लाग्छ भने नि म्याम, अब हुन त हजुरलाई धेरै थाहा होला, वेन it was decided that girls will come to the school, what could be those factors if they were taken care of? त्यो अहिलेसम्म पनि हामीले जति क्लेम गरे पनि डिफरेन्सेस छ त्यहाँ गर्ल्स र बोइजको बिचमा। मेबी हामीले यति धेरै प्रोटेक्सन दिनु, विच वाज नेसेसरी एज वेल, प्रोटेक्सन दिन खोजेर पनि गर्ल्सहरू ओपन अप हुन सकेन कि ओभर प्रोटेक्टेड बनाएर चाइल्डलाई हुर्काए भनेदेखि चाइल्डको इनेट क्यापेसिटी बाहिर निस्किँदैन नि। त्यस्तो टाइपको सिचुएसन पो भएको हो कि, किनभनेदेखि अहिले पनि गर्ल्सहरूमा हेर्दाखेरि जस्तो हजुरले भन्नु भने वेन यु केम आउट अफ द बुढाइनकण्ठ स्कुल, बुढाइनकण्ठको सो मेनी थिङ्स हेल्प्ड यु एक्सप्लोर द वर्ल्ड। इट ह्यापन टु मेनी अफ फिमेल्स, कि हामी फिमेल्सहरूलाई धेरैलाई फिल भयो। मै त्यो स्कुलमा हुँदाखेरि कति कुराहरू आई कुड नट एक्सप्रेस, धेरै गाह्रो हुन्थ्यो। बोइजहरूले जिस्काएपछि कोही टिचरलाई भन्न गयो, टिचरहरूले छुट्टै हामीलाई नै गाली गर्नुहुन्थ्यो, या दे युज टु जस्ट शट देयर माउथ, शट आवर माउथ, एन्ड सिद्धिन्थ्यो त्यो टपिक त्यही गएर। तर वेन वी केम आउट अफ द स्कुल वी रियलाइज द्याट ओ बुढाइनकण्ठले यति थुप्रो कुरा सिकाएको रहेछ, अब पो मेरो रियल वर्ल्ड इट हेज स्टार्टेड, आई क्यान डु दिस, आई क्यान डु द्याट भनेर अब चाहिँ पुरा वाइल्ड हुन थालियो भने जस्तो पोजिटिभ सेन्समा है। अब हजुरले गर्ल्सहरूको स्टार्टिङदेखि देख्नु भएको हिसाबमा वाट कुड हेभ बिन डन टु मिनिमाइज दिस सिचुएसन फर फिमेल्स इन बुढाइनकण्ठ स्कुल? अगाडिदेखि नै के गर्न सकिन्थ्यो होला?
होइन, अब हाइन्डसाइटमा हेरेर चाहिँ नि यु क्यान थिङ्क अफ सो मेनी थिङ्स द्याट कुड बी हेभ बिन डिफरेन्ट होइन। अब मेन थिङ चाहिँ नि आई नो देयर प्रब्लम्स इन, आई डिड पेन्ट अ भेरी भेरी रोजी पिक्चर अफ बुढाइनकण्ठ है, तर आई डु नो द्याट दे आर प्रब्लम्स, दे आर पिपल विथ साइकोलोजिकल प्रब्लम्स है, त्यो छ। अब आई डोन्ट नो, अहिले त्यो हामी हुँदाखेरिमा त साइकोलोजिस्ट थिएन। अब actually whatever was counseling was being done by the house mistressहरूले नै गर्थ्यो है। अब I find it very strange that if a boy is harassing a girl, the girl gets scolded. त्यो चाहिँ नि I don't think it was there। त धेरै कुरा हामीलाई टिचर्सलाई थाहा हुँदैन कि, frankly speaking things happen which maybe we are not aware of के, त्यो पनि हुन सक्छ है। because अब आफ्नै घरमा त छोरीले कतिवटा कुरा बाबुआमालाई प्रब्लम हुन्छ भनेर सुनाउँदैनन् भने टिचर्सहरू, it's not necessary that in a big school like Budhanilkantha that teachers know everything that's happening. I do know that there was bullying सुरुमा पनि, there was some very very bad cases of abuse को पनि थियो। त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले नै I mean we stood up for the students that were being abused. All kinds of things happened. There were girls who were getting harassed. There were cases like that. I know. त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ psychologist चाहिँ थिएन. I'm not talking about psychiatrist, psychologist counseling. I hope there is a psychologist there now. I don't know. Okay. The other thing, of course, is things have changed. Okay. अब सुरुमा त हामीले प्रोटेक्टिभ भयौं, अहिले त त्यस्तो विधि प्रोटेक्टिभ त हुनु पनि पर्दैन होला है। I don't know what kind of teachers you have there now. तर हाम्रो पालामा चाहिँ नि that was something I mean we had to do it because especially we were just scared that something would happen and then the blame would fall on the school, on us, and then this girls program would be closed. So that was the big problem. तर अब अहिले this is like Budhanilkantha मैले छोडे पनि 25 26 27 वर्ष भइसक्यो, अहिलेसम्म सेम कुरा छ भन्नु सुन्दा त मलाई दुःखै लाग्यो because things have moved on है। अब मेरो कलेजमा the school that Hira ma'am works in, I mean these are not boarding schools है, so things are simpler. त्यहाँ त नि I mean definitely of girls or boys हिँडेको ओरेको देख्दा it doesn't bother us at all. In fact, अजेलको जमानामा त त्यसरी हिँडेन भने there's something wrong भने पनि हुन्छ, त्यस्तो
Something wrong.
भइसक्यो है।
Right.
यो गर्दाखेरिमा so I feel sad to hear that, but it's like, the only thing I can say, which is maybe not the right thing to say, is when steel is put into the fire, it comes out forged stronger. So I think Budhanilkantha does make you strong. I mean, no child should have to be, should be bullied. The bullying, the stronger always bullies the weaker. अब त्यसमा चाहिँ के measures राखेको छ I don't know. म स्कुल पनि अब अस्ति कहिले हो त्यो उसमा गएको थिएँ 50th उसमा बोलाएको थियो, त्यसमा एकैछिन बसेँ मैले। Unfortunately I had a couple of other events, last moment where they invited me, हैन। भने त्यसपछि म गएको पनि छैन। अब पहिला हाम्रो केशर सर प्रिन्सिपल हुँदाखेरिमा अलिकति गफसफ हुन्थ्यो। अब अहिले त I really don't know the people there, except छोमु म्याम है। It's sad to hear that they're still going on. तर हुन चाहिँ नि हुन्छ है। In any school anywhere in the world there will be bullying. Of course, कसरी protect गर्ने, because the weaker students, not necessarily girls. Girls can also do the bullying, okay? It's not just boys, but there should be some measure of protection for them. त्यो स्कुलले कसरी गर्छ, unfortunately I'm not able to do anything. Even day schools मा पनि हुन सक्छ, तर त्यसमा चाहिँ you can take immediate action, and especially अब मेरो मल्पीमा त अब त्यहाँ जस्तो त्यो thousands plus students छैन है। So I can take immediate action, and we have people who would take action if there's slightest problem there. I feel sad to hear that it's still going on, and I just hope that things change up. Maybe SEBS can sort of talk about it. I think they are in touch with the school and sort of say, psychologist एउटा राख्नुपर्छ. I don't know, is there a psychologist there? I really don't know. There should be a live-in psychologist for a school like Budhanilkantha.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Snila Baini, for asking that.
Can I add a little something?
Yeah, go ahead, Hira, ma'am.
Yeah, about ma'am, adding on to what ma'am said about being protective, and we were, as I mentioned earlier, we were also nervous. We wanted the best for the girls, but whatever issues there were, I think we never took it lightly. And Jana ma'am and I know very well, because we had worked on even some very serious issues, but we never took them lightly, and it's all for our girls. That much I can say.
Yeah.
So we were very much aware of like what was going on. The girls did approach us. I mean, they were comfortable sharing with us whatever problems they had. If they were being harassed by some boys or even teachers, they were quite forthcoming. They would write long letters to me, and then I would share with Jana ma'am, and we'll discuss it, and then we see what we can do about it. So it's not that we I mean, protection is there, but I think the communication was there for majority of the girls. As ma'am said, there were, as Nira was saying, some are very quiet in their own world, and maybe they're not able to come out. But majority, what I'm saying is there was a good communication, and if there were any issues like that, they would come to us. We were the first persons to know, and we would deal with it, very tactfully, very carefully, in being very sensitive issues. And Jana ma'am and I know very well, what were the things that we had to deal with, and Bidya ma'am also knows. So yeah, I mean, I think it was necessary to some extent.
I know. It was a male-dominated society, no doubt about it. In fact, some of the things that when we took up some cases, Hira ma'am, Bidya ma'am, hamla dos aathyo.
I know,
they
it
are
was very
against
hard
us,
for us.
they are against the male teachers, they are against hamla ne gali khayam hai, hamle tara that didn't stop us. I'm sure there are so many other things that we don't know. Because first of all, सबै कुरा भन्दैनन् के बच्चाहरूले, even they don't even tell their parents नि, they don't. अब अचेलको बच्चाहरू त स्पेशली अब not talking about boarding school, पेरेन्ट्सहरूले कम्प्लेन गर्छन् के मलाई हामीसँग बोल्दै बोल्दैन भनेर भन्छन् है, के हो बोल्दै बोल्दैन, घर आउँछ बोल्दै बोल्दैन. But that's normal part of growing up. But यस्तो केसेसहरू चाहिँ students should be encouraged to tell, saying that you're not going to get into any trouble. तर हुन्छ, unfortunately that is life. And as I said, you just need to be still and come out stronger. But serious harm should not be done, and there is serious harm being done. I mean, I have met students who've had terrible experiences at Budhanilkantha, and it's very sad that I've even had to say something like, sorry, I didn't know about it, which is not an excuse. which is not an excuse. I mean, I'm sorry about it, and I hope something is being done. Day and age, protective. I mean, girls can manage on their own. It's not like.
Sushil,
Yes,
you
sir,
had a
ma'am.
question?
I just wanted to know your perspective. We have worked on numbers. Number ta almost equal huna atisakyo, girls and boys go. There are few issues मैले थाहा पाएको work भएर. Hopefully, other things will also get addressed with time. मैले हजुरको experience अलिकति खोतल्न मात्रै खोजेको थिएँ. Thank you.
Thank you, Snida. Sushil bhai, 303B, you had a question. You have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Ma'am, namaste.
Hi,
Both
hi.
ma'am, Jana ma'am la pani, ma'am la pani. Ma'am सँग अहिले धेरै पटक भेट भइरहेको छ फाटाफुट्टा जना म्यामसँग चाहिँ एकपटक त स्कुलमा अस्ति झल्याक्क भेट भएको थियो त्यसपछि I'm sorry I haven't been able to come to see you.
That's fine, don't worry.
फर्केर आएपछि भेट्छु भनेको त्यसपछि के गर्दा गर्दै कोभिड आयो then I was like अलिकति
And you're welcome, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you. But I just wanted to like share some of my experience as a parent. मेरो छोरी पनि अहिले स्कुलमा पढ्छ अनि how I personally feel अझै पनि गर्ल्सहरूलाई life in Budhanilkantha is different than for the boys. हाम्रो टाइमको पनि र अहिलेकै बोइजहरुमा पनि अलिकति डिफरेन्ट चाहिँ रहेछ. I think it's more to do with general हाम्रो cultural अब where there's so much to work on हैन. अब प्यारेन्ट्स को पर्सपेक्टिभबाट बुढानीलकण्ठलाई त्यो जहिले पनि इस्यु छ जस्तो लाग्छ एज अ बोर्डिङ स्कुल किनभने अब हाम्रो बुढानीलकण्ठ त डिफरेन्ट ब्याकग्राउन्डको आउँछ नि त स्टुडेन्टहरु. So because of that, I think the management there is always in that difficult. I think ma'am पनि त्यो पोजिसन आउनुभयो अनि I just wanted to add to it a little bit. किन मैले आफैले पनि as a parent interact गर्दाखेरि छोरीको पार्टबाट आर्गुमेन्ट भनौँ न अब I always put forward यो पुगेन उ पुगेन भन्दाखेरि अब I hear principal vice principalसँग गफ गर्दाखेरि उहाँहरूले भन्नुहुन्छ अब यो गर्यो भने यस्तो यस्तो प्रब्लम आउँछ अनि के गर्ने अब भन्ने खालको. So they are still very protective about girls. HOH हरुले चाहिँ हेड अफ हाउसहरुले स्पेशली भनौँ न गर्ल्स स्टुडेन्टहरुको स्कुलमा मोबिलिटी पार्ट चाहिँ still restricted धेरै हदसम्म. I don't know if that's really needful or not, but it's there.
Yeah.
So just
thank you, Sushil, thank you, Sushil, for sharing that. So it is already 1 a.m. in US also.
All right.
I'm very lucky today because my wife and my daughter, they left for Germany, and then my son is being taken care of by my sister. So that's why I could do this at 1 a.m. in the morning, or else.
I'm lucky my wife left for Germany.
Yeah, because
didn't sound nice at all, Kiran.
Yeah,
Not like you.
If she hadn't gone, then I wouldn't be able to do that from the comfort of my bedroom here. I've been in a cool corner down there, so I'm grateful for that. But thank you so much to both Hira ma'am and to you. Truly, what a blessing always to talk to you
It's a
guys.
great honor.
And Hira ma'am, we'll be coming to you at some point. Next month, we are going to be talking with Robert Wilson, sir. And then so we're looking forward to that. And then we also have we're also going to be talking, I think in July, a teacher, she's here, she taught the Nepali for the first batch students. So she's here in Maryland, I found out. So we'll be talking to her as well. So we will have a list of these teachers as well as the admin staff that we will try to have a conversation like this on a monthly basis. But thank you for your time, and thank you for joining for all the students.
Thank you, Kiran, for all this. And you're great, getting in touch with teachers. So thank you, and thank you to everyone who's there. And it's been great talking to you. And as I've said to everyone who I meet, I'm at college most of the time. Just do come and see me, okay? So thank you. Have a good day. I see Americans say.
Can I have a minute, please?
Sure.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering my question, and thank you so much, Snida Didi and Sushil Dai, for continuing with my questions as well, and thank you, Hira ma'am, as well. Thank you, Kiran Dai, for the whole program, and thank you, Kausal Dai. Thank you, everyone here who are joining us today. It was really nice hearing your stories, and Yeah, it was inspiring. And last month I found you very strong, independent, and inspiring woman. So हामी जस्तो भर्खरै आफ्नो करियर बनाउँदै गरेको पढ्दै गरेको युथहरूलाई स्पेशली वुमनहरूलाई चाहिँ के मेसेज दिन चाहनुहुन्छ? And thank you.
Well, you know, for you, you know, the world is there before you. Make something of it, make an impact. I mean, whatever, you know, you've learned, put it into practice, make an impact. It's difficult for girls. It's more difficult for girls to make an impact than it is for boys. I mean, I have no doubt that you'll do it. And you just have to believe in yourself. I mean, it was difficult for us, you know, we had to keep banging our heads against glass ceilings all the time. It's much easier for you all. But they'll, you know, as I always say to students, you climb one mountain. Before you reach the top, see whether there's a higher mountain waiting for you. So that is what I would say. Just don't say, oh, I'm nearing the top, I'm here, you know, that's it. Don't say that. There's another one waiting for you, which is slightly higher, okay? Climb that and then look for another one that's higher. And you can do it. You know, with the education you've had, you can do it, okay?
Yeah. From Makalu to Annapurna to Gauri Shankar. Keep going, right?
Sagarmatha.
That's right.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Kausal.
Okay.
Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, the president here. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.